One of our students is a healthcare administration major at a non-target school, and we helped him land 2 internships this summer. One part-time gig at a local investment banking boutique, and a full-time internship doing corporate finance at a major telecommunications company. How? By taking advantage of opportunities inside and outside the classroom to build a stack of undeniable potential. We taught him how to repackage his story into exactly what recruiters wanted to see, and help dozens of students from poli-sci to econ to even nursing backgrounds do the same. If you're pivoting into finance, check out the first link in the description below where you can grab our resume template. It's built to turn any major into a compelling finance story. One of the unique things about the finance industry is that you'll find people from so many different backgrounds working in the industry. For one, there's just so many different things to do within finance, but for two, it's because that you can really transfer a lot of skills from a lot of different industries into the financial services sector. So just to give an example, I know people who have come from science backgrounds, medicine or engineering backgrounds, or even English writing backgrounds, working in a financial services firm, doing anything from operations to legal to sales to portfolio management. And it's all because the experience that students often perceive as necessary for these roles can be filled by explaining your transferable skills that have been gathered from other industries or other jobs or other positions. College recruiting, I think, is a very special time in the recruiting cycle where you can actually sell your potential way more than you can your experience. If you think about it, especially for an internship position, what hiring managers and recruiters are really searching for is potential, because there's no shot you're going to be a tenured, decade-long portfolio manager by the time that you're 20 years old in college, only having 3 years, in university. That's just not anything that they're expecting from you. And even if you've had internships in your sophomore year summer and your freshman year summer, those 3-month internships don't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. And if you're up against somebody who has had an internship every single semester and every single summer leading into junior year, and you're competing against them and you have only worked in a restaurant or retail jobs going up until then, I still think that there's a chance that you can compete against that applicant. And I don't think there's really any other time where that statement holds true in your career, like later down the line. And so the way that you're able to, level set with the competition as a college student is by, one, taking advantage of opportunities inside and outside the classroom. Yes, you might not be able to manage a $1 billion portfolio with real money, like, working for a big firm, which you might think you need when you're applying to these internship positions, but you can join the local or university stock trading club where maybe you're just paper trading a $1 million portfolio and pitching long buys or sells or, doing some equity research. Those are tangible skills where, yes, you're not doing it in a real world, large organization, Fortune 500 company, but you're doing it in order to demonstrate, for one, that you just have the interest in the markets and interest in the financial space, but then for two, that you're actually willing to learn how these things work and that you're going down this path of learning about the markets, of the financial services sector and what those kinds of companies have to offer. I think it would be a completely different thing if you were entirely pre-med, right? Like all of your coursework was medicine related, all of your experiences outside of the classroom were focused on medicine, and you're trying to break into a finance role. Like that just wouldn't really add up for somebody who's sitting across the table from you trying to, recruit for a finance position. But if you have this non-traditional finance background, coming from a different major, coming from a different sphere of knowledge, you can still play into the transferable skills as long as you have some relevant finance experience on your resume. And so again, it doesn't have to be working for a big major bank and actually handling real money. It can be something as small as demonstrating some interest by either, if you are not a finance or business major, taking some finance courses and maybe putting it on your resume to show that you're interested. Although I don't think coursework really holds a place on the resume. If you're a non-traditional major recruiting for finance, it might help show that you're not just spamming your application and just trying to get anything and everything. It does maybe show a little bit more intentionality. But the next leg up from that is really being involved in university organizations or just groups where you are surrounding yourself with the markets and relevant financial topics. And at this point, storytelling is going to be your biggest asset, because you could have a million internships leading into your junior year. But if you don't know how to describe any of the impact that you contributed throughout any of the roles, you'll probably lose out to somebody who had, maybe a retail job, but is able to more clearly explain how their skills and what they achieved in that role is a better benefit to the job that is hiring. And I really strongly believe that there's going to be no other time in your career that you're going to be able to convince somebody to hire you with little to no experience, just really a demonstrated interest in the niche that you're trying to, pursue, whether that be investment banking or sales and trading or wealth management. These are the only times in life where you're probably going to be able to, have somebody give you a shot without really seeing a long backlog of your demonstrated work experience. Because once you graduate college, nobody really looks at the potential, and they really focus a lot more on your actual experience, which, not to say that they don't factor in potential at all, because obviously every company wants employees who are going to grow in their roles. But really, being a student is the best time to not necessarily inflate those projections, but you can be a little bit more of a guide to how those projections will play out, because there is no backstory or backlog of a history of you working in an actual job. So going back to our exemplar student in this case, he was part of venture capital club outside of the university. He was involved in the student investment fund at his school, and mixing that with his healthcare background. For one, if you're applying for an investment banking role on a team that covers healthcare companies, you're gonna have such a better edge to get that role over somebody who's just a finance major applying for that same position, because you have that industry experience and knowledge of the healthcare sector, which somebody who is just purely a business major probably doesn't know much about. And by finding vehicles for you to express your interest in finance, even without being a traditional finance major, if you're able to find these vehicles, for one, and then for two, explain how it fits into your story and explain that to somebody else in a way that they can understand how it would be a benefit for their company to hire you, I think really that's the way that you can get into these finance roles without being the traditional finance major. And it's crazy to hear how many people think and put this limiting belief on themselves that just because I don't have finance in my major, my resume is not even getting looked at. And maybe that might be the case, that you've submitted a bunch of applications and haven't heard back, but that might mean that your resume kind of sucks in that case, rather than it being because you're not a finance major. And so instead of subscribing to these limiting beliefs of, hey, I need to be a business major or a finance major to break into finance, instead think about how you're selling yourself. How are you pitching your story? What are the actual experiences that you have? If you don't even have any connection to finance on your resume, I'm not surprised that you haven't been hearing back. So find places where you can express that that interest and demonstrate that interest in finance. For 2, figure out how to weave that into your story, your personal brand, so that you can clearly communicate it with a recruiter when they sit down and say, hey, I see that you're a healthcare administration major. Why would you ever want to be in finance? Want to skip the trial and error? Apply for the next cohort of From Scratch to Success with the link in the description below, where we help students without the perfect background land finance offers every cycle. Let's cook. We'll see you over there.